I sat at my desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard, staring at the screen. Another email, another report, another task that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's all just noise. I've been here for hours? Or was it days? It's hard to keep track. Time moves differently when you're not paying attention. The overhead lights buzz incessantly, the kind of hum that worms its way into your brain, like it's trying to make you forget you're still here. I glanced at the clock. 10:16 a.m. Another hour before lunch. Another hour to fill with thoughts I can't quite grasp. I can't bring myself to care. The stack of papers on my desk is starting to look like a sad monument to my own neglect. Receipts, invoices, and a half-empty coffee mug that I swear gets dirtier by the day. Milo, my cat, is curled up on the pile of paper, his back arched in a way that looks uncomfortable, but I've never once seen him move from that spot. He sleeps, and I watch him. I can't tell if he's content or just indifferent to everything, like I am. I should probably get out more. Maybe I'd meet someone. Maybe I wouldn't. It doesn't matter. The world beyond this little office doesn't seem to exist for me. There are people I pass on the street, but they're just faces in a crowd. I don't know their names, and I don't care to. It's easier that way. That night, I had the dream again. The one that's been haunting me for months. It wasn't a nightmare exactly, but it was unsettling. A strange kind of dread that lingers long after I wake up. I was in a hallway. Not a hallway like you'd find in an office building, but one that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls, if you could even call them walls, kept shifting. They rippled like something alive, the colors bleeding into each other in ways that didn't make sense. The floor beneath me felt wrong, too. Soft, like I was walking on something I shouldn't have been. Something that couldn't be solid, but was. There was a figure at the end of the hallway. Tall, impossibly tall. It stepped forward, and with every move, the world around it seemed to bend. I couldn't tell if the figure was male, female, or something else entirely. It didn't have a face, not at first, but it felt like something I should know. It felt like me, but not me. It felt like something I was supposed to recognize. I tried to take a step, but my legs were stiff. Not in the way you get when you sleep too long, but like something was holding me in place, keeping me from moving forward or backward. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't find the words. "Who are you?" I finally managed to choke out, my voice trembling in the vast emptiness of that hall. The figure didn't answer, but it didn't need to. It didn't speak, but it made me feel everything. A sense of recognition, of familiarity, but also of dread. Something about it twisted my stomach into knots. I could feel my pulse quicken as it took another step. Its eyes, if you could call them eyes, were so hollow, empty, yet full of something I couldn't name. It was me, but it wasn't. It was everything I'd ever feared, and everything I'd ever wanted, all in one. It raised a hand, and though it didn't touch me, I felt the air shift, like it was pulling me toward it. I was trapped, but I didn't want to move. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't know if I should. I forced myself to speak again. "Who are you?" I repeated, a little louder this time. "Why do you look like me?" The figure didn't respond, but I could feel it, whatever it was, laughing at me. I didn't know if it was my own laughter or something else entirely. It was at that moment I realized something terrifying. I wasn't sure who was laughing. I woke up with a start, my heart racing. The room was dark, and for a moment I didn't know where I was. The weight of the dream was still on me. I reached out to the side of my bed, and there was Milo, still asleep. At least he wasn't going through this. Lucky cat. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, running a hand over my face. The dream was too real, not just in the way dreams sometimes feel, but in the way I felt changed by it. That feeling of the figure in the hallway, it stayed with me, like a phantom limb I couldn't shake off. The memory of it clung to my skin. I stood up and walked to the bathroom, glancing in the mirror. My reflection looked back at me, but something was off. It wasn't that I looked different. It was more like I couldn't recognize myself. The way I looked, the way I felt about what I saw, didn't make sense. I ran my fingers through my hair, trying to make sense of it, but the thought slipped away faster than I could catch it. Stop it. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. It was just a dream, right? Just a dream. But as I turned off the bathroom light, I couldn't shake the feeling that the dream had followed me into the waking world. The loneliness wrapped around me like a second skin. Tighter now. I didn't know if it was the dream making it worse, or if it was just my reality catching up to me. Either way, the weight of it pressed down on me harder than it ever had before. That night, the dream came again. This time, the hallway was darker, the figure was closer, and its eyes, those empty, hollow eyes, stared at me, as if waiting for me to understand. I tried to resist, but it was like the figure knew me. It knew everything I feared, everything I desired. It was me, but it wasn't. It was my shadow, stretched out across a world that didn't make sense. I couldn't escape it. I could only stare back, too scared to move. And then for a brief, fleeting moment, the dream turned absurd. The figure, my doppelganger, tilted its head, almost as if it was asking me why I was so upset. Like we were two old friends, having an uncomfortable conversation about who was going to get the last slice of pizza. Really? I thought. You're going to mock me now. I didn't even know why I thought it was funny, but I did. I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, the idea that my own mind was now playing tricks on me, mocking me with a better version of myself. A version that didn't have to feel all the things I was feeling. A version that didn't have to be so goddamn alone. But the humor faded as the figure took another step closer. And I realized, with a sinking feeling in my chest, that there was no punchline. There was no escape. I woke up again, gasping for breath. The sheets were damp with sweat, and I could feel the remnants of the dream clinging to me like a film I couldn't wash off. My pulse was still erratic, thumping hard in my chest, and my thoughts were fragmented, like puzzle pieces that didn't fit together. I stared at the ceiling, trying to shake the weight of it all. It was just a dream, I told myself over and over again, but I knew deep down that it wasn't. The dream was more real than my waking life. It had followed me from the darkness into the light, lingering in the corners of my vision. The figure in the hallway had changed me. I wasn't sure how, but I could feel it. It was like I was slowly becoming him, or maybe he was becoming me. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. It was all starting to blur together, like the walls of that God-forsaken hallway. I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled to the bathroom, trying to ground myself in the familiar. But the mirror betrayed me again. My reflection was wrong, just like last time. I looked distant, My face was pale, my eyes hollow. I tried to focus, but the image of the figure, that unblinking, relentless stare, kept flashing in my mind. I reached up to touch my face, and my reflection mirrored me with an unsettling delay, as if it wasn't quite sure of itself either. "What the hell is happening to me?" I muttered, staring at the stranger in the mirror. I wasn't sure if I was talking to myself or to the shadowy figure that had somehow invaded my life. Milo brushed against my leg, a soft reminder that at least someone still cared. I reached down to pet him, but even his presence felt off. There was something strange in the way he looked up at me, a knowing in his eyes that I couldn't explain. I shook my head. "This is just too much," I said aloud, though no one was listening. The next few days passed in a blur. I dragged myself through work like I was moving through thick mud. My interactions with people felt distant, like I was watching myself from the outside. The laughter of my coworkers, the mundane chatter of the office, all of it sounded muffled, like it was happening in a world I didn't belong to. I felt like a ghost. And then the dreams came again. Every night I found myself standing in that hallway, waiting for the figure. But this time, he wasn't alone. I started seeing others, shapeless forms at the edges of my vision, creatures that made no sense, monstrous shapes with too many limbs, or faces that melted into one another like dripping wax. But none of them spoke. They just watched. I tried to scream, tried to run, but the hallway stretched on forever, and my legs wouldn't move. It was as though the very air was pressing down on me, thick and suffocating. The figure, my doppelganger, was always there, standing at the end of the hall, waiting for me to catch up. It wasn't until the third night that I realized what was happening. The figure had stopped moving, and this time, it didn't just look like me. It was me. I knew it the moment I saw it. I recognized every inch of its face, its posture, the way it stood. It was a grotesque mockery of myself. But there was something else. As I looked at it, I could feel it in my bones. This was the version of me that the world wanted. This was the version of me that fit. This was the version that could walk out of this dream and into the waking world without hesitation, without fear. And then I realized the horrifying truth. It was waiting for me to be swallowed whole. The doppelganger raised a hand, and I could feel the invisible tether pulling at me. I wanted to move, to fight, but my limbs were heavy, as though they were made of lead. My mind screamed at me to run, but the more I tried to fight back, the more the pull intensified. The hallway was stretching, warping, and I could feel the edges of my mind starting to unravel, becoming one with the dream. "Stop," I whispered, but my voice was lost in the vast emptiness. The doppelganger tilted its head as if considering me, and then it smiled. The smile was so wide, so unnatural, that I felt bile rise in my throat. It was a smile I had seen in mirrors when I caught myself looking just a second too long. It was the smile of someone who had finally realized the joke wasn't on them. It was on me. I had become the punchline. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. It was the same question I had asked since the first dream, but now I didn't even know if it was mine to ask anymore. The figure stepped forward, its steps slow and deliberate. It didn't answer, but the emptiness around us grew colder, more suffocating. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was me. I had become the dream. I woke up, gasping for air, my body trembling. The room was still dark, but the weight of the dream clung to me. It wasn't just a dream anymore. The lines between waking and sleeping had blurred. I could feel the doppelganger's presence lingering in the air like a shadow that refused to leave. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, my fingers brushing against the screen as I turned it on. The bright light stung my eyes, but I didn't care. I needed something to ground me. I needed to see something that made sense. The screen flickered to life. I swiped through the notifications, half-heartedly glancing at the messages. Work emails, a reminder for my dentist appointment, an ad for cat food. And then I saw it, a notification from a news website. Local man reported missing, family and friends, desperate for information. I froze. My name was at the top. The photo was me, or it should have been, but it wasn't. It wasn't my picture. It was the doppelganger, the one from the dream. I felt a chill crawl up my spine as I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. My reflection in the darkened screen seemed wrong, just like it had in the mirror. I wasn't sure who I was anymore, or if I even existed at all. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't escape the feeling that the world had already replaced me. It was all too much. The dreams, the figure, the creeping sense that I was slipping away. I laughed. It was hollow, empty, the kind of laugh that makes you question if you've lost your mind. "Of course," I muttered. "Of course I'm being replaced by a better version of myself." But the humor didn't come. It felt like a cruel joke, a cosmic prank, and I wasn't laughing anymore. The figure had won, and now it was my turn to fade into nothingness. It's funny, the way we go about pretending we have control over things. I used to think that I could handle anything. I used to think that if I just showed up every day, did my job, got through life without making any waves, I'd be fine, normal, ordinary, and that would be enough. But it's not. It was never going to be. I don't know when the switch flipped, when the dream stopped feeling like just a dream, when the line between what was real and what wasn't started to crumble. But I do know this. Something inside me is gone. Something that I can't get back. I was replaced before I even noticed. There are moments when I catch myself in the mirror now, and I don't recognize the face that's staring back at me. Sometimes I don't even feel like I'm looking at myself. The eyes are the same, the mouth moves the same way, but it's like the person looking at me isn't me at all. It's like someone's trying to wear my skin, pretending to be me. And every time I see that face, I hear the laughter, that mocking, hollow laughter from the figure in the hallway, the one that has taken over everything I thought I knew. I try to shake it off, to dismiss it as just my mind playing tricks on me. But it's harder to do now. The laughter won't stop. It gets louder with every passing hour, like it's coming from inside my own skull. I try so hard not to sleep, but it inevitably overtakes me. I don't know what's real anymore. I'm not sure if I even remember what it feels like to be me. The dreams come faster now, more vivid, more invasive. I've stopped trying to fight them. I can't. I've stopped trying to wake up. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back there, in the hallway, in that suffocating place. The figure waits for me, always at the end of the hall, the thing that used to be me. Sometimes it's just standing there, watching, and other times it's walking toward me, the echo of its footsteps stretching out, impossibly long. I don't even know if I'm still dreaming when I see it anymore. This time, though, it's different. This time, I don't just see it in the distance. The figure is right there, right in front of me. I step back, heart pounding in my chest. My limbs feel heavy, sluggish, like I'm moving underwater. I want to run, but I can't. I can't seem to make my legs work. My mind races, but all I can hear is the laughter, that awful, mocking laughter. It's inside my head now. It's all I hear. The figure doesn't move at first, just stands there, staring at me with its empty, knowing eyes. I want to scream, but nothing comes out. I feel like I'm suffocating, like the air in the hallway is pressing down on me, crushing me. And then it speaks. The voice is mine. But it's not my voice. You really think you can escape? The figure's words drip with a cruel amusement. It tilts its head, eyes never leaving me. It's too late for that. You are always going to be me. You just didn't know it yet. I try to say something, anything, but I can't. My throat feels tight, like I'm choking on my own breath. I want to fight back. I want to shout at it, to tell it that it's wrong, but I can't find the words. You've been slipping away for weeks now. The figure continues, its voice a perfect imitation of my own. Don't you see? You never really had control. You were never in control. You're nothing, just a shadow. I want to deny it. I want to tell it that it's wrong, that I'm real, that I'm still me. But the truth is, I'm not sure anymore. I don't know who I am. All I see is the doppelganger, standing there, alive, while I'm not. I look down at my hands, and I can't remember if they're mine. The skin looks the same, but it feels foreign. I feel like I'm falling, like I'm being pulled into some dark, endless void, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I am you, the figure says again, its voice like ice. And you. You're just a fading memory, a ghost, trapped in a dream you can't wake up from. The world around me begins to crumble. The hallway warps and distorts, stretching into impossible shapes. The walls twist and ripple like a piece of fabric caught in a storm. The air thickens, and I feel like I'm suffocating. I try to move, but my legs won't obey. My body is frozen, locked in place. I know deep down that I'm not going to wake up. This is it. I've been replaced, and I can't fight it. The figure is me. It always has been, and now I'm just gone. Just a figment, fading away into nothingness. But as the darkness closes in, I feel a strange sense of peace. It's absurd, really. I should be terrified. I should be screaming. But instead I laugh. It's a bitter, hollow laugh, but I can't help it. I laugh because I finally get it. It's all a joke. I was the punchline all along, and I didn't even know it. The figure steps closer, its face a perfect mirror of mine, and it smiles. It doesn't say anything, but its eyes hold the answer. And then I'm gone. I wake up again, but this time it's different. I'm not in the hallway. I'm not in the dream. I'm in my apartment. It's dark, quiet. My reflection in the window looks normal, right? I feel lighter, somehow. More alive than I've ever felt. But as I stand up and move toward the door, I see something on the floor. A pair of shoes, neatly arranged. I don't recognize them at first, but then I see the note tucked into the laces. I am you now. The words are written in my handwriting. I freeze, and I realize with a sinking feeling in my stomach that I've always been the one who was supposed to fade away. And I laugh, because it's the only thing left for me to do.